it up? Yeah, you can start rolling.
Yep.
Okay.
Action.
Okay. So we just covered on part 1 the traditional set. So if you're joining us now, everything we did in the last video was covering the traditional tools, the things that you would expect to see in a garage, but now we're going to go to the unique tools. And a lot of these are normal and expected, but let's move on. So we'll start with the funnel set. Okay, everyone knows funnels. I find myself using this black one for 90% of everything. A little dusty right now, but this is how I'll put engine oil into my engine after when I'm changing the oil. Lana, what's up? Just stop recording. Oh, okay.
So much fur.
He's a crispy boy.
He's all right, yeah.
No, at the house. He's literally walking.
It's good that you're recording.
He decided to burn his tail on fire.
Little crispy boy.
right.
Little hibachi baby.
Okay, so this funnel does everything. Big red funnel. I mean, if you're playing basketball from across the driveway, you need something that big. It's whatever, but I hardly ever use it. I use the big red funnel to hold the other funnels. All right, drain hose. Second thing on the list. These guys right here. I'm gonna use these sometimes to hook up to my Famoto drain valve so I don't make a mess on a windy day. So from the drain valve, the oil pan right into the bucket. Or maybe I'm draining the radiator and this hooks up to the plastic drain point on the Tacoma's radiator and I want to direct the coolant into my bucket. It's good to have some various size drain hose around. Okay, electrical tape, not just for electrical things, but also securing, maybe you have, what's it called? Wire loom, which is the plastic shield around wire that you installed, or electrical tape has a billion uses. Actually, it has 1,000,000,001 uses. I just can't think of everything right now. All right. Fluid syringe. Now that could be 2 things, but I know I want to show y'all this. So if you've seen my transmission fluid video, or sorry, not transmission fluid, but my power steering fluid video, you remembered I sucked the fluid out, then poured new in, ran it for a while, and then sucked it out again. A syringe. It's a good quality syringe that has multiple purposes in the vehicle world. All right. I'm gonna cut that out. All right. All right. All right. If there's one thing on this list I find so useful is, we're now on 10-quart bucket. Everyone's got a large, clumsy, usually black, large oil pan, like a drip pan, to catch your oil. And they're not supposed to leak, but they always do. What's he doing?
I don't want him to get back. He keeps on going to the fire.
NATO doing fire. Anyway, so a big black oil pan. This is drip-free, mess-free. You're supposed to fill it with your oil when you're draining and take it and pick it up by its handle and bring it to AutoZone or O'Reilly's or Advance. It's leaking everywhere. Anyway, here's what we're gonna do instead. You will not find an oil pan anywhere in this garage. I will never own one again. A 10-quart painter's bucket. Why is it nice? 1, it shows you how much of whatever fluid you're draining out, and 2, it is extremely easy to pour into the watertight container you're going to take to Advance or O'Reilly or AutoZone, which is this guy I definitely did not steal from the Army 10 years ago. No way.
Tactically acquire,
yeah. But what basically I'm getting at is oil pans you can go buy at Walmart and AutoZone, they're trash. They really are. At least I think that. Magnet grabber with the grabby boy, okay? You don't use it super often, but there's a time and place. And it's not always for retrieving a bolt you drop. Sometimes it's for securing a bolt before it drops. If you watch the PCV valve video that I just did, you'll notice I'm unscrewing something with this next to it so it does not drop down into the engine and it's already secured by a magnet. All right. Brake pad spreader. This is a pretty neat tool. I've got electrical tape on it right now because these 2 bigger plates come off pretty easily and reveal this is transmission fluid everywhere, reveal these smaller plates, which I use for my Tacoma. But all it is, it's a ratchet. and you can adjust it from opening to closing. As you turn this, it either expands or compresses, squeeze together, not squeeze, but closes down on brake pads. But really its purpose is to spread open brake pads or push open the pistons in a brake caliper so you can pull the brake pads out. You'll see it in my brake pad video. None of this is Tacoma specific, other than that oil filter wrench, which is certain vehicle specific, but everything here has a purpose across many vehicles. Okay. There you go. You good boy. You burn your tail. Okay. Next is the Mighty Back pump, and it's hidden behind the manual right now. I'm not going to open this, but it's a hand pump that will remove fluids from your vehicle. Specifically, I pulled everything out of the brake fluid reservoir recently on my Tacoma, and it pulls it from the hose. You hook up the hose to the pump, and then the other end of the hose to this reservoir, and then you attach another hose. So as I pumped, it sucked the brake fluid out of the reservoir into this container, and then I dumped that out, and I can do it again. It's a miniature hand vacuum. It's very useful. Here's another good picture. But you can use this in many things, many purposes, not just automotive. But the other thing on with that was the hand pump. So when you want to put a fluid back into a vehicle that is in a hard to reach place, this is a very simple, very cheap, but gets the job done hand pump. So one end is going to go into the bottle of liquid, and the other end is going to go into the receptacle that you want the fluid to go into. So it's been a while since I used this, but this will go into the fluid you want. Anyway, that's how it works. You pull it. Oh, actually. Whatever. Oh, shit.
I was like, what fell?
This should still be working. Good hand pump, it will replace fluid into whatever you need to put it into. So basically it's taking fluid. One end will take fluid from a bottle, and the other end will put that fluid from that bottle into, for example, the transmission. And I'll show you a video clip of that. Okay, bleeder bottle. This thing is too cool. If you saw the recent brake fluid video. Historically, when you bleed brakes, when you bleed brakes on a vehicle, one person is I can't talk right now. One person is working the brake pedal while another person is opening and closing the bleeder valve on the calipers or the rear cylinders. What this does is eliminates that need, because this will go to the bleeder valve, and then you can magnetically stick it to your vehicle or hang it with a steel cable that I added a D-ring to, and when you press the brake, it will fill this reservoir without taking in any air. So it's basically a one-person brake bleeder tool, and it's very useful. And it's very cheap too. Okay, brake liquid tester. I'm not going to take it out of the box, but it's a small $10 or $15 part that you'll dip these two prongs in, and it will tell you the water content of your brake fluid. So when you open your brake fluid reservoir, stick this in, or you take a sample out and test it, it's going to let you know 1, 2, or 3% of how much of that, or how much is it water content in that brake fluid. Because brake fluid absorbs, it's hygroscopic, it pulls water out of the air around it to prevent rust inside your brake lines. So this will let you know how much water is in that brake fluid, and you don't want water in your brake fluid. You want to be changing it, and this is just letting you know how much is in there. So a cheap, somewhat accurate tool that is very useful. Okay, punches and chisels. You don't need these too often. In fact, I only have one punch in my garage right now. I think I have more punches, roll pin punches specifically in my weapon safe. But punch, what you're gonna do You're gonna put this end on what you need to knock out, and this end you're gonna tap with a hammer. Very useful, but you don't use it too often in the automotive world. Chisels, if you're using a chisel in the automotive world, then something's stuck probably, and yeah, they serve a purpose. I've had to use one or attempted to use one on my Tacoma for the front differential drain plug before, and I ended up having to weld a nut to it and turning it anyway, but that's a different story. If you see the Tacoma front differential video, you'll know what I'm talking about, but it's good to have a set of punches and chisels in your garage. Razor blades, yeah, opening packages, cutting things, cutting hoses that you need to remove, electrical work sometimes. Yeah, you want razor blades in your garage. You just do. Here's a scraper razor blade for taking things off. You never, maybe off of glass, but you never want to use this on a painted surface. A razor blade will cut right through your clear coat into your paint. Then you're starting a rust issue, and then you're just kind of screwed. Wire brushes. Okay, so wire brushes, you see me when I'm busting surface rust off of my vehicle, like under the belly, because I'm maybe prepping for another round of basic like paint or rust prevention. So steel brushes, and then I have, or if I'm cleaning up parts, then I have 3 more over here in different types. I have steel, plastic, and brass. So basically they have a different level of aggression on each one. And they serve their purpose. I don't use them too often, especially on a newer vehicle like the Tacoma, but they serve their purpose, and it's something you want in the garage. Okay, I don't need to explain what mallets, hammers, and rubber mallets do, but you're gonna find a need for these fairly often. If I'm grabbing one of these for vehicle work, most often than not, it'll be the rubber mallet. Maybe I'm trying to knock a stuck brake rotor off, or they have their uses. Maybe you're using a hammer or sledge with your punch. Carefully, we don't need too much force. If you need a lot of force, you're probably gonna break something. That's just a general rule of thumb. But hammers serve a purpose in the automotive world. Carefully. Crowbar, okay? I think the only time I've used, well, crowbars serve a purpose in the automotive world, especially, this is a big one when it comes to vehicles, but sometimes you need to flex something just right to get a screw up in there maybe, or a nut up in there, but if you're having to do that, you probably messed up an earlier step. So it's good to have, but if you're using this, ask yourself, why am I using a crowbar, especially on a 3rd generation Tacoma, or something new, because you probably did something wrong, but it's good to have. Okay, rag bucket. Do not underestimate the bucket of rags. This is literally just a steel bucket full of greasy or soon to be greasy rags. You're gonna need them all the time for cleaning your hands, wiping things off, wiping down the engine. Have your rag bucket. Okay, and then finally under the unique section of tools, this is half of what you need for a blowtorch. You're gonna hook up a basic gas source to the bottom and then adjust the amount of the fuel you're feeding it, so the size of the fire coming out the end, and you're gonna blowtorch things. Now, blowtorch is not used for welding or melting metal. What a blowtorch is gonna do is really one of 2 things. One, namely I've used it on my Tacoma to expand something that would not turn otherwise. Heat causes metal to expand. Freezing temperatures cause it to contract. So heat, it was my tie rod ends. I needed to loosen a nut up on the passenger tie rod end of my Tacoma when I first bought it used, because I needed to adjust my tie rods. Well, this right here is what finally got me to be able to loosen the nut on that, because I torched the nut just short of red hot, it expanded enough and then loosened itself. Oh, the other thing you can use it for is if you have to melt through maybe a previous Permatex or gasket you put in place that you just need gone. This guy right here. Fire cures all, but ask yourself, why are you using that? Don't use it all the time. Okay, so now we've covered the entire section of unique tools, and this is part 2 of 3. Next will be the miscellaneous tools, some obvious, some not so obvious, but thanks for hanging out with us, and now we're gonna move on to part 3, so hopefully you stick around. Thanks.